I hope you know. I'm going to start with Sarah. I just wanted to kick off with this thing about like what was the initial draw for you to work on this project? Was it a script? Was it an idea that you were like, oh, this sounds really interesting. I want to be a part of it. Like, what was the kind of?
It was purely a niche, really, in terms of the initial phone call I received about the project before I even read the script. Just knowing that he had made the movie Searching, which I thought was just incredibly inventive and scary and tense and moving and emotional. And just I thought, how did he do this in this sort of very unconventional way that I'd never seen anybody make a movie like this before. So that right away piqued my interest. And then I thought the script was really good. And then when I spoke to Anish for the first time, he said, I said, well, who are you thinking about casting in the role of Chloe, of the daughter? And he said, well, we're not exactly sure yet, but I know that it's very important to me that we don't go looking for some, the girl of the moment or whatever. A lot of times studios, sorry, often are pushing for that kind of thing. And I thought it was a really bold of him and really assured. And I thought it was a very good sign that he was going to make the movie he wanted to make, and that I could trust him completely, that he knew exactly what he wanted and he was going to fight tooth and nail to get what he wanted. And obviously wanting what he wanted is what gave us the magnificent Kira, who, the movie wouldn't be what the movie is without her. So there's that too.
Sarah, it's also the same thing. It's like even though your character goes a little bit bonkers, but it is rooted in a mother's love that like I again understood. And so was that part of the conversation that you and Anish had about the role, and did it develop a little bit more because you wanted to maybe explore things a little bit more? Like how does that kind of?
Well, Anish, the script was pretty locked and loaded. It really was. I mean, they had vetted it every which way but loose. I mean, every time I'd have to ask a question, it was, Seven, Nat, and Anish were like, oh, well, no, we've already thought all that through and we've come up with, it was a really, they were really, what's the word that's eluding me? Jeez Louise. They just knew exactly what they wanted it to be. So it's not that there wasn't room for the conversation if I had wanted to have it. They were absolutely incredibly collaborative. But I just think I don't know. I was just very drawn to the script and to the story and to the opportunity to work with Kira and to work with Anish. And it would be too hard to pass up.
When I watched the film, I thought it was really interesting how like the age where Chloe is that moment where teenagers in real life start to have problems with their parents, like and but this is like done in a totally like extremist kind of way. Can you?
Yeah, this is like what everyone goes through when they're 17, right?
Yeah. So can you maybe talk a little bit about this? That whole thing where it's in a weird way. It's like I understood kind of the emotions that maybe a teenager will go through, but of course this is done, it's crazy, but like it's so smart because it's rooted in a reality that I totally understand, but yet it's exaggerated in that sense. If you can kind of like expound on that a little bit, Kira.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm so happy to hear that you connected with this character. I certainly did, but I'm not far off from having been a teenage girl, so I definitely could connect to the character in that way. One of the things I love about this character so much is that she's a teenage girl who is an interesting character. Like I hate to put it so bluntly, but like we don't often get that. Like teenage girls are often, they're either reduced to archetypes or they're over sexualized or they're in supporting roles. Like it's not often that you see a movie that takes a teenage girl seriously. Like this is a film that takes a teenage girl seriously and says this person, a girl of this age is worth following. It's worth following her journey. And I think that's kind of in a subtle way a very radical thing. And I loved playing that character. I think obviously her journey is a lot more extreme than what most teenagers go through, but she's allowed to be a teenager. Like she's allowed to be so many things. She's allowed to be a kid, and she also takes on these very adult roles. She's allowed to be, you know, very sweet and very kind, and also tough as nails. Like, I loved the oppositions in her, and I loved that nothing was compromised in order to make room for the other. Like, she was just allowed to be full. She was allowed to be 360 degrees. Everything in her was allowed to be full. And to see that in any character is rare, much less, as you said, a young girl.
完璧で優しい母親豹変迫り来る毒母から逃げろ逃げろ逃げろラン